Welcome back, friends. I get a lot of comments on videos and posts about how do I get stronger? How do I do more damage? I see such and such content creator or such and such post on YouTube or Reddit or whatever that shows a person getting all this damage or they can survive so much better than me, and I don't know how they're doing it. And so today's video, I want to go through kind of the steps and the approach I take to getting my character stronger and what I see as the priorities within that. And in this video, I'm going to show you a couple places that may seem obvious, but a lot of people leave on the table. And I'm going to finish off by going into a couple battles and showing you things like how do you make a better rotation and how do you assess the damage as you do it so that you know if your changes are actually making an impact. So like and sub the video, please. Let's get to that 10,000 and let's just dive right in. And the first thing I want to say, and this one's going to seem obvious, but it's level your characters. You have no idea how many comments I've gotten where I might be talking to somebody like, oh, but my character was level 70. Or, I only got them to 65 and then I tried it and I'm trying the hardest difficulty of whatever the current fight is. And I'm doing it with this character that's leaving, 5 to 15 levels on the table. So if you're trying to get more damage, more survivability out of your characters, your biggest priority is getting to level 80 for that character. Now, Wonder will get there as he gets there. It's a little bit harder to control. But for your characters themselves, if you've made it to that next plateau, the first thing you need to do is farm the materials to level up your character. If I really wanted to say do a physical fight right now and I wanted to bring Ryuji, my top priority is getting the materials to level him to 80. And by doing so, check this out, just breaking through gives me quite a few stats, and then just picture that getting all the way to 80 and all the growth that would, bring with it. So get your characters leveled. I know it sounds obvious, but again, you have no idea how many people tell me they haven't done this. Awareness, this is not something you can control as readily unless you're obviously just pushing for pulls. And obviously if you're pulling on banners, it's a bit random on who you're going to get. And there's only a couple places like the Lufel business plan where you might have gotten, targeted awarenesses. That's like how I got some of my on awarenesses. So this one you can't really control unless you're a big spender. So you can kind of ignore that. And then hand in hand to this, and it's going to feel obvious, is weapons. There's another thing that I talk to people about quite frequently. It's, did you pull the 5-star? And if not, how much are you investing in the 4-star? And I think there's this perspective that I've seen, or at least I've noticed in some comments, where people think that you have to have the same weapon to level all the way up, and you don't. You only need, I believe it's 3 total copies. And it's, I think the first round, you need the same one. Yeah, so the first round you need the same one. And then every other round, you just need the same rarity level. So I can take, like, let's say if 5 extra Lufels sitting around, I can take one of Lufel's to then break through the next level. And a lot of the weapons that I have chosen to break through all the way to the top on a 4-star were done that way. I had extra things from pulling, or maybe I used a couple coins at EY shop, and I got that broken through. And so, I can come in here and show you. Your economy for 4-star weapon coins is going to depend on your account. Depends on what stuff you've cleared. Have you gone through all of the anime scenes? Have you gotten your confidants to where they give you the coins? And so, like, if I look in here, if I really wanted to say, I don't know, level up this weapon here, I can buy the 3 that I need for the breakthroughs and then use any duplicates for the rest of them. So don't be afraid to spend some of these coins if you're going to really strengthen the character that you're going to be using or that you really want in a specific fight. I would still save a couple in case a new character comes out that you don't want to pull weapons for, and then you've got, a 4-star just waiting for you. But don't be afraid. I don't necessarily need to use a bunch of mine right now, but if I was going to level Ryuji, I would probably push this and get his weapon all the way up. That's a lot of extra power via the passives on it. Now, you're not necessarily going to get higher attack and stuff for breaking through the weapon, but you do get stronger effects. So things like the percentages on the bottom, let me just grab one and show you. And so again, if I go back to my favorite over here, Ryuji, if I look at his weapon, I go from the 7.3 and 38 to 13.9 and 72. These are big jumps. This is big damage increase for him. So it's definitely a power boost to focus on the weapon if it's something like these 4-stars. Otherwise, of course, get him up to the max level for that character, whatever bucket of 10 that you might be in. So those are obvious, except for maybe the go ahead and break through your 4-stars. The next thing I would say is Mindscape can give you a little bit, but this is not a game-breaking amount of stats, so it's less vital But if there's someone that you really do care about, this is a good place to get it. Like I've already maxed out my queen. She was the first one I focused on because I use her a ton. And now I'm pushing Summer Matoha. And you know, this is very dependent on how much you've cleared in the Velvet trials. But once you get that economy going, you can come in here every few days and fill out parts of these trees. You can see I'm just 3 away from having her finished. And I think, yeah, I think I just unlocked this one like 2 days ago. So you can put points there. It's not the biggest thing, but just an awareness that it is there. And then the next thing you really want to look at is your persona skills. I think another theme I've seen a lot of people say is, oh, I only leveled to level 6. Or, you know, I just leveled the 1 and then I kind of forgot. Well, by leveling up these different skills, you're getting a ton of damage. And I'm just going to keep using Ryuji as my example here, just because he's not fully maxed out for me. But if I go to his persona skills, you'll see my God Hand Burst, which is, you know, his big power, is sitting at 308% attack, okay? If I were to bring this all the way to 10, that goes to 341% attack. So there's a big jump, and a place I see a lot of people stop is honestly level 6. So you're leaving a lot of potential for those powers if you don't level them. Now, I will say be careful, don't level everything. Like Ryuji, I almost exclusively use skill 3 on rare occasions while I use skill 1. And so when I was first building him, that's where I put most of my focus, and on the highlight itself because I use his highlight as well. If I look at Summer Closer as an example, you're going to see that I haven't really touched skill 2. I never use her single target. And when you're working with limited resources, you do have to make these decisions. But you can see I pushed to level 10 all of her other abilities. So I planned for it, I used my roses for it. And you do want to be thoughtful on who gets all these roses because they are a limited resource that you can't farm out. So don't just put on absolutely everybody, but really look at your characters and say, hey, is this someone who is going to get a nice juicy increase from this particular skill and level their skills up? So I think if I were to order your daily stamina usage, or if you were going to burn like stamina bottles, character levels first, weapon levels second, skill levels third, and then think about do you want to use coins on your weapons. So that's how I would first approach it. And that's really for your characters that aren't Wonder. And then the final thing on characters obviously is Revelations, but Revelations can be tricky. Like if you look at my Matoha, she has a couple purples. And the reason she has a couple purples is one, I just really don't feel like farming using any more stamina. But I did farm like 30 bottles worth at one point. And you can see I've got Pierce Rate, Crit Multiplier, Attack Multiplier Plus on one of my purples. My other purple is Attack Multiplier, Crit Multiplier, Crit Rate, and Attack. So it's really hard to get 4 stats that you want, so getting 3 is kind of like a goal for me. And the truth is I just don't have a gold card that has better substats. And so where I might get a little bit better on perhaps the attack, I lose too much down here for it to matter. Now, unfortunately, this rolled 3 times in a defense. That's a whole different story. But when you're going through your cards, it isn't always just get a gold card. I've seen people with all gold cards, not leveled up, with crappy substats. Or all gold cards, leveled up with substats that don't do anything for them. So really pay attention to the stats on your cards. There's guides everywhere. I'm sure Lufel.net has priorities on their things as well. But like when I look at my closer, I want to understand what is the potential that she has. And so first I want to understand what drives her. She's like max HP. You guys can check my guide. And I'm going to come in here and say, you know what? Where do I need help? Like for her, I would love more Pierce Rate. A little bit more Crit Multiplier wouldn't be a bad thing. Or crit rate could be, well, she's actually pretty good on crit because the way her crit works, but she would be a character that if I could sub something out for Pierce Rate, that's the kind of thing I would tackle. So look at your Revelation cards and then think about when you're in battle, what is it you're lacking? Is your damage dealer not hitting hard enough? Okay, go into your substats. Are your substats and main stats built for damage? Did you get all HP cards? Did you get a defense card for your main stat? That's not going to help you do damage. So look at that kind of stuff. Or let's say you're using, I don't know, Soy, and because he's in a lot of our teams, and you're thinking about his Revelation cards, and you're not focusing on max HP, well, cool, he's probably gonna die. So, think about what they're there for. Not everybody's there for damage. And same thing, if you look at my cards for Soy, I haven't farmed out a bunch of these, but look, defense, HP, speed, I think this one might be purple, Speed, I need him to go first. I actually wouldn't mind replacing this card. HP. Over here, HP. Over here, HP, HP. So when you look at your characters, make sure that you're focusing on the stats that they need. And then when you want to tweak them, think about what you're losing in battle. Are you dying too quick? Are you not doing the damage? And that's when you want to look at your cards and say, okay, well, this card over here could really be replaced by something better. And I'm going to focus on survivability. A lot of people get surprised that my Leo stays alive as often as he does, honestly. And if we look at his cards, he's not in all purples, but I've got an inability to click on it. I've got HP here. I've got HP here. I've got defense, defense, HP, defense, defense, HP, defense. And so when I built his cards, I looked at stuff like this. I've got a good amount of attack on him, and so I can start subbing in things that help him not get one shot or two shot. So think through your battles. Think through what is the actual thing that's happening that is frustrating you. It's usually survivability or damage. If it's both, then you probably have a lot of cards to fix. So really look at their cards. Cards are the last thing I farm. I literally on stream, I think yesterday, just farmed my last blue card off of Yui. So when I say they're the last thing I do, like I mean it. They're the last thing I do. But you do want to focus in on these. This is where a lot of your power is going to come from. Level them up, get a decent spread of stats, but you're probably not going to get perfect stats. So that's for the characters. Then that leaves our boy Wonder, the purplicious pimp over there. And so Wonder has a couple growth places. The first, I see a lot of people not filling out their schema. And what I mean by that is they're just unlocking their personas that they want to use and a couple here and there that they have extra things for fusion. I recommend highly to unlock everything in your persona compendium. Everything you possibly can, with the exception of being frugal with your coins. Your persona repression medals, I think they're called. Yeah, so these here. You don't want to just buy every persona here unless you're truly just trying to max the schema. It's harder to get these. You obviously have to do your rank ups and stuff and play the different modes. And so I would put some caution not to overspend here. I've personally only gotten 2 of these so far. I've gotten a King Frost and Bishamoten. And you want to think about possibly what's coming in the future. If you don't know, that's fine. But be careful draining this balance. So aside from these, go to the Velvet Room and just take a look at your compendium and see who you're missing. Who can you fuse, right? So come into your persona fusion. Who is fusible? Who do you not have unlocked? And really target that down. Every 10 level bracket, that became my new goal. I would open up the bracket and then I would just unlock all the personas, and all my stamina would basically go there when I was done leveling my characters. And that's how I got these all unlocked. And by doing so, again, your Wonder schema is going to grow. Now, I would personally recommend you do what I did here as far as what's yellow. So get all of the yellow ones that you see on my screen maxed out. And then I'll occasionally do a reset to shift my points around for these 4 buckets. Because there's some fights, most fights, I really care about this ailment accuracy. And every once in a while, I might need something like this ailment resist, but more often than not, it's this over here that I care about. So these are a little bit more flexible. And then your S level is just as you level up after 80, you can't control this. So just don't forget to pop it in. You know, when you level up, make sure you come over and actually press the button. It doesn't happen automatically, but get your schemas done. These are a lot of stats on the table. And then that will bring us to the next thing for personas, which is to max your personas. It's another place that I see a lot of stats left on the table. So Wonder, the way that he works is he takes a combination of stats basically from the personas that you're equipping. There's some, weapon effects, of course, with different weapons. But right now, for example, I have Dominion, Dionysus, and Cert. I have maxed all 3 of these. So when I was done farming my first copies, I went back and just kept spending the stamina I needed over the course of a few weeks to get them fully ranked up. I actually just finished Dominion maybe a week ago. But if I look at him, so let's go into his details. There's a couple things that happen. So first of all, you get more levels. With more levels comes more stats. More stats goes to Wonder, makes Wonder stronger. Second of all, on their passive attacks, you've got this up here. So if I look at Overclock 1, I've got increased attack 29, and then I get a 1-turn skill damage boost of 15 when I spend a stack. I'm not going to go through his whole mechanics. At Overclock 3, I'm still getting those, but then I additionally increase the attack of my skill. So these aren't like the biggest numbers ever. But in a lot of your personas, these are the things that are going to kind of help eke out a little bit more damage and could even potentially shift your entire rotation. Like if I look at Dionysus, for example, on his overclock 1 increased crit by 14.8, and then when using a skill on an ally, increased main target's crit damage by 24.7. And if I go to the end, it's up to a 30% for 2 turns. And so these are things that can add up and definitely can become meaningful when you're thinking about the concept of all of your personas are now completely maxed out. And so it's something that you want to focus on. Don't just get one copy of your persona. If it's someone like a Dionysus, a Dominion, a Cert, a Janosek, an Alice, if these are personas that you're going to use somewhat frequently, bump them up. Or if you're in a particular fight that, you just need to eke out a little bit more damage to finish it a turn sooner or a couple turns sooner, or maybe at a slightly better score, check your personas first and ask yourself, oh, am I leaving stats on the table by not breaking them through, the 2 or 3 times that it takes to break them through? And that's inclusive of your older ones too. I will still use Succubus every once in a while. She's maxed out. So that's the persona stats. And the other part of personas that can be frustrating, fully agree to this, but is super necessary, is your skill inheritance. This is where you get more stats and you can do more things for your characters. So for example, I'm going to take Dominion here. So what does Dominion need? Well, Dominion, if I think about them, up here, you get this commandment stack. This isn't necessarily calling for me to need any stats, so that's fine. But if I look at his main ability here, increase party's attack by 15% for 2 turns, and then for every 500 of the user's attack, increase party attack by 1.25% more. So this is a skill that wants me to have attack. Let me look at my passives. I've got Rebellion, which I put on him. Nurture, Agility, Physical Boost. What's needed, what's not needed. Agility Master, not needed at all. I can get rid of this one. Or no, I'm sorry. Agility Master I need because I need him to go first. So I want to keep this one. But Nurture, this one's a nice to have, but I'm not usually running out of SP. Physical Boost. I'm not doing any physical damage here. So what can I do? I can go into my skills and I can say, okay, let me get rid of Physical Boost. And I can't remember if he came with it or if I picked it up, but he's got Attack Boost. So now I can put Attack Boost on here and I increase attack by 13.5%. So I've now got a boost to the thing that drives my skill, okay? Or I can look at Rebellion. There's reasons why I might want to use Rebellion over here. I can also look at things like maybe I don't want that Nurture because I'm fine in terms of SP and I want something else. Or Divine Judgment is another one I can take away. If I look at Divine Judgment, am I going to be in situations where I want Wonder to do a single bless attack? Not often. And so if I don't need it, I can take that out and sub it for a Tarakaja. Tarakaja is going to allow me to put an attack up on an ally, so someone like a Summer Closer. And again, I put attack boost on here and I'm boosting up my attack, so this is even stronger. So now what I've done is I've taken my Dominion, got rid of things that aren't helping him help me, and replace them with things that do. And don't think of your personas as one and done. This isn't a perfect build. And this is not the build you use in every single fight either. And so there's going to be times when you come in here and say, you know what? I don't want him faster because he's my 3rd slot and I can sub out Agility Master for something else. Why do I want to decrease my defense if I don't need the speed? And this might be where you put in like an Iron Resolve or anything else that frankly can help you do more. So don't be afraid to inherit things. Don't be afraid to switch them out based on the fight. It is not uncommon for me to go into a guild boss round and switch out passives and then go get some more. So this is another place that I think a lot of people are missing out, I guess you could say, on power, efficiency, defense, things like that can go a long way to helping you with your scores. So that's it for the personas. Get them leveled up, get them fully broken through, get them all the way leveled, and then really start playing with their skills. Particularly these passives is really a big important one. So let's say you've done all that, you've got Wonder leveled out. The only other places you can really look directly at Wonder is going to be his weapons. And so the weapons, it's always going to be the question of, do you want to break through these 5 stars? I could get quite a bit more power if I spent my coins to upgrade these 2, so the Bless and the Arc Knife. And the only reason I haven't is because I'm actually saving for a different knife that comes out later because I've got the foresight of other servers. But if I wanted to do more bless damage, I could go get a couple breakthroughs on this weapon and I would do more bless damage. So that's the other place there. Now I want to show you something that I think a lot of people don't focus on. And it's something very important. And that's going to be understanding when to use certain buffs. Now, there's no perfect rotation for every boss that I can cover that's going to give you every single battle. And you really have to look at this as how much do you really want to invest time-wise into these fights. I usually like to be somewhere around here in this kind of, lower percentile range. And I like to be, fun with the guild. We like to be hopefully top 50. And then I like to try to get the top 10. And I especially like to beat out certain people in the guild for fun. Now, I think some of these people are going to come up and beat me here soon. But what you want to do, and I kid you not, this is what I do. I get a piece of paper. Now, I'm old. Maybe you've got a more technical way to do it. But I usually get a piece of paper, and I know that I've got 6 turns on this fight. And so, or 6 rounds. And so I'm going to write down the order my characters go in, and I'm going to put in what I did and kind of keep mental note of the scores. So this team, I'm going to redo this with Phoebe now that I have her. But let's just show you a couple examples here, because I think this is a big gap and people understanding when to do things in a fight. So I'll keep the team I last ran to get that 3%. I don't remember changing anything on her. Okay, sure, I guess I did. So coming into this fight, I'm just going to show you really like the first round or so. And I'm going to show it to you a few different ways. So in here, I have to decide who is giving me crit buffs. Do I want to do defense down? Do I want to do attack up? All of these things will give me more damage. I have to test which one does what when. And so, for example, on this first round, I'm going to show you, let me do Marakunda. So this is an AoE defense down. I'm doing an AoE team. My cord is A1, so I can jump straight into distortion. I'm going to pick the weak enemy, because me getting the extra hit on a weak enemy, more damage. And you're going to notice I'm close, get out of the way. I'm close to about 30k damage, okay? She's not my damage healer, I don't really care. Now, this is what I see a lot of people do. We're going to click on closer, and we're going to go right into her highlight. And I want you to take note that I'm now at 211 score, okay? I'm going to reset. And this time, I'm going to wait till after Minami's turn. So same thing, I'm going to open the exact same way. I'll give Marakunda. I'm going to go hit the same guy with distortion. I'll get somewhere close to 30,000. There is some variability in damage. It's a range. And so I'm not going to always get 29 or 28 or 31. So understand you're going to have some points of difference here. But now I'm going to throw this heal into Matoha. And then I'm going to launch this over here. It doesn't matter how I select on this particular power. And now I'm up to 326. That's a big difference. That was not a small number. Why is that? Well, it's because she gets buffed from that heal. And so even though my highlight was ready, by delaying that highlight by 1 power, I've not messed up any rotations, which I can tell you because I've tested it 1,000 times, but I just eked out over 100,000 more damage in one decision. So now if I go back, what if I didn't use the defense debuff? What if I did, say, a crit buff? And now I've got 2 options. Do I do Rebellion or do I do Dominions? They give me different inherents. So again, everyone else is going to do exactly the same thing. She's going to distort to the weak. It's going to get around 30,000 damage. So yeah, 28 and some change. I'm going to heal. So all this is the same setup. And now I'm going to do my highlight. And boom. And let's see what happens. Okay, so now I'm at 305, so I'm a little bit less. Now again, there is a little bit of a damage window, but now I know that it's comparable on this specific turn to do that Rebellion buff from Dionysus versus, oops, I didn't mean to hit auto, versus the AoE debuff down. And then the final one is, okay, well, what if I do Rebellion on this guy, on Dominion? because I get a different inherent skill. So now if I go through, boom, we hit. Again, it will be about 30,000. Yep, just a little bit over. I got a little bit of an extra bump there. Healing Grace. And then finally, we'll do this. And we're about 314. So what has this taught me? This taught me that I want to delay until that last moment to do her highlight. I want to make sure she gets that first buff. And no matter which of the 3 powers I pick at the beginning, they're pretty comparable in damage. So the next decision you have to think about was, well, how long do their buffs last? If I look at this and I know that the damage is pretty average to one another, well, my AoE defense debuff lasts 3 turns. So if I put that in on turn 1, I know it's going to last through turn 3, and a lot of your damage will come in your third attack because of the way the damage buffs and debuffs window works. And I know that Rebellion is a 3-turn buff, so either one of those lasts. But if I look at Dionysus, for example, his inherent only lasts 2 turns. So if I use that first, then on skill 2, it's been used up. And on skill 3, I no longer have that benefit. So in that situation, probably the best thing I can do if I'm using those powers is to do my defense down. The other things you can try to is, what about attack ups? There's a lot of ways to spin this. But the point is, it's not just throwing the same 3 powers every single time in every single fight. You don't have a perfect opening of always doing Rebellion, Revolution, and Rakunda. Or Rakunda, Revolution, Tarakaja. It really depends on your team. It depends on the boss that you're fighting. And a way that I will test battles a lot of the times is I'll just play the first 3 rounds. And I'll take note of what order I did powers and highlights. And I'll see if I can just maximize those first 3 turns. Because if I've got that down, chances are that's putting me into a cycle for the second round that I'm basically using the same powers or something close to it. Sometimes you might sub in something like a Yanosek or something like that. But I know that I'm getting a really good damage window on that first set of turns. And then the other thing you want to do is just test your highlights. Like the way that I would run this team, and I think you saw it in my guide, is I get another highlight on closer at the end. And that's literally because I have a piece of paper over here where I wrote down, oh, if I do her highlight here, and then I do Wonder's highlight there, I don't get charged enough to do it again at the end. But if I do Chord's highlight here, and then Wonder's highlight, I get a second round. And so I know it sounds, I don't know, Matthew's the wrong word, but it's almost like a little side work to the game and to what we're doing. But if you really want to get the best scores and do the most damage, that's what you have to understand. You've built your characters, they're level 80, the weapons are 80, they're as broken through as you want them to be, you've done your work on getting some decent cards, you've maximized your personas, cool, you've done the power game. The only thing you have left after that is understanding when to use a power, understanding when not to use a power. Closer has a big decision tree. Do you use skill 3 on your first turn or do you skill 1? Something to test, right? Sometimes I do 3, sometimes I do 1, it depends. In this fight, I've gotten higher scores using skill 1 first. And then I have 2 turns of skill 3 on turn 2 and 3 when I have the highest damage windows. So, there's little things like that. You're going to still see guides from people on SOS and Guild Boss, but I would encourage you to try doing what I just did so you learn these powers better and what they actually do. Because saying that, oh, it gives a 35% defense down, well, is that better than a 15% crit rate up? How many people could jump in the comments right now and tell me which one's better for my closer? Because it varies depending on her stats. So try it out. That is the real key to doing better in this game. It's getting your characters maxed. Like I said, getting them some decent cards that are stats that actually make sense for that character. And then testing. Take a fight like this, take an SOS boss, and just see what happens if you choose power A over power B, particularly with Wonder. He's the one that has the most variability there. So my friends, I hope that helps. I know it's not a perfect answer. I know I didn't just tell you to always use Rakunda first and Rebellion second, but the reality of this game is that doesn't work. You want the top scores, you want to have the best damage possible, and you want to survive, you've got to think about these windows and think about how to time them, and really think about your 3-turn window. I think in most cases, if you're thinking about turn 3 and turn 6 as being your damage windows, you'll get a fairly comprehensive understanding of how to align to those turns. So take care, my friends. I hope that was helpful. Again, if you got this far, a like and a sub. Big call to action, trying to get that 10K so I can open Discord and do some cool things for you guys. Hit it, hit the button. It's free for you. Helps me out a lot. And I will see you on our next video or live stream.